I'm Michael Bungay-Stanier. This is Change Signal. This is the podcast where we cut through the blather, the BS, and the noise to find the good stuff that works in change. If you're a transformational leader and you are seeking modern change mastery, here's where we put the AI into change. Wait, that doesn't work. Here's where we put the AI into teamwork. No, that doesn't. Here's where we put the AI into transformation. Okay, I don't know about you, but when, as a change leader, you think about AI and you've probably just gone through yet another hype curve moment, another alleged leap forward, perhaps you've got the same mix of terror and excitement that I do, which is kind of a 48-52% mix. And depending on the day, depending on the moment, depending on the email I've just read, it's either 52% terror or 52% excitement. It feels like, wow, everything's going to change. And everything's going to change. So where do we find guidance in a world not only flooded by AI slop, but flooded by AI gurus, inverted commas, who love telling us that they know everything about AI? I think I found somebody for you and for me, somebody who is perfect to talk to us about not just AI, but AI in the context of change and transformation. He's somebody who has led change, not in one, but in 4 big organizations: Nike, Sanofi, BlackRock, and Shell.
There's the Trudeau quote from the World Economic Forum that we all know about, the pace of change is never going to be this slow again. But I truly believe that. And I think AI is going to be an accelerator of it. And we still don't know what the impact is. So I think we need to experiment our way into it.
That's Andrew Kilshaw, and he's now stepped away from these internal positions leading change and is actually right in the heart of wrestling with that juicy question of how to create AI support that will make change different. Now, he describes himself as an AI optimist, so that's the context for this conversation. Andrew, welcome.
Thank you, Michael. Great to be with you.
Yeah, look, it is really great to be with you. If you were mentoring me as a change leader and you're drawing on your experience and you go like, I got scars, I got some trophies, but I got some scars as well. And I'm just taking a guess that you have some scars.
I do.
If you were to give me one piece of guidance to say, look, here's my best piece of guidance for you as a change leader based on all my experience, what's the core lesson you'd want to teach me?
At an organizational level or at a personal level or both? I can address both.
Why don't we do both of those because they're both interesting.
Okay, so let me start with organizational first. I'd like the cliches sometimes because they're true. And one of the things is, you can't please everybody all the time. You can please some of the people some of the time, etc.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at an organization, typically it's a third. There's the third of the people who are sort of like not over my dead body. This isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
You've got a third of the people who are, thank God you're here to save us from ourselves. We've been waiting for sort of energy and I'm with you. And then there's that middle third that are like, I've seen people like you come and go with your fancy ideas and your visions and trying to get us there. So I'm just going to hang it out and see what happens. So I think just from a personal energy perspective, acknowledge, understand, empathize, and be curious about why people don't want to change. But from an energy and a perspective, form that coalition, form that tribe. The idea of a net promoter score is, I can advertise change to you, but if your friend tells you it's a good thing to buy a car or whatever, you're more likely to listen to them. So surround yourself with that sort of ambassador group, because I think it's good for creating that coalition of the willing. There's the video about the dancing guy that's still a classic. It's that idea of sort of virality. But also for you as an individual, I think you need that sort of energy around you to keep you positive, because change is hard and leading change is hard. So acknowledge it, put it in a box. You can be cathartic about it, but surround yourself with those who are going to lift you up, because it's hard work.
Well, I love that. I mean, I love the Bobby Kennedy quote, 25% of people are against everything all of the time. And you're kind of pointing to that as well. That third that's in the middle, I think of them as skeptical, not cynical. Skeptical because they're like, I've had my heart broken by people like you so many times. Like, I feel this flicker of hope and then it gets snuffed out with some sort of disappointing experience. How do you tip them towards the light rather than towards the dark?
It's a good question. I mean, there's, again, the basic idea of this, the carrot or the stick. And I've always been one that wants to focus more on the carrot, and only by exception, when you see really sort of destructive behavior, do you get the stick out. And you have to tell stories about these things. So even if you're a leader and someone ends up getting fired because they were duplicitous, they were trying to do things behind people's backs that sort of went against the vision that people were trying to form, you have to tell stories about that, and you have to be human about it. That, so-and-so wasn't with the agenda, and frankly, I felt and they felt they would probably be happier somewhere else. Because, we're not always together forever. And at points in people's lives and careers, you may want to be with a different partner, a different company, a different culture. Things change. So that fluidity is good for all of us. But undeniably, we're going in the direction that we're going. So that's the exception. Then the carrot, and I think one of the things I learned at Nike, which is a company that is masterful at storytelling, is really sort of lifting people up. So Mark Parker, who used to be the CEO there, is the chair of the board now, often used to say, the distance between us and our potential is much bigger than the distance between us and the competition. So think about what we could be versus comparing ourselves to our peers. That distance is so much more to go after. And I think so much more enticing and inspiring than comparing yourself against the minutiae of the differences between you and your peers.
That's great. I love that. Thank you. So let's talk about AI. Here's an impossible question for you. How is AI going to change the whole way we do change in organizations? I mean, where do we start with that?
If only we knew. I think, one, I think we'll lead our way into it and we'll learn. So I'm going to give you an analogy. So to give you another Bill Bowerman quote, who was one of the co-founders of Nike, he was a track coach at the University of Oregon. And he said, everything that you need is already inside. Just basically, you have the tools to go and do it. And I truly believe that about most organizations when it comes to change. Most of what they need to change, to transform, to evolve, they already have the vast majority of the ingredients. They might just not have the recipe or how they think about it. So I'm generally a big picture thinker, a sort of systems thinker. There's no silver bullet to any one change journey. So it takes the proverbial village, if you want to go fast, go alone, etc. If you want to go far, go together. So going together with a change journey, I think, means a number of things. You need strong leadership. You need feedback loops. You need data. You need trained people that can help you, specialists, get from A to B. You need managers. You need everybody to play their part. So if you think about how AI can enable all of those things, I think that system or that sort of village that it takes to transform, 100,000 person organization, AI can apply to all of them, whether it's giving you better insights through data, whether it's allowing you to connect data dots to look at bigger patterns, whether it's helping managers with decision intelligence or giving them in the moment feedback and coaching against some of the dilemmas that they're looking at. So I think it's not AI is here to save us. It's the idea of the augmented X. So it's augmented decision-making, augmented leadership, augmented learning, augmented data upon which you can react to decisions.
Right.
So I see it being more of a thin layer that makes everything more powerful.
That's really helpful. Let me ask a more kind of foundational question, which is, how do you help people move from their resistance to AI, based in techno-skepticism or just anxiety, or how quickly will this make me redundant, or what if this is a tool I don't even get to master and apparently I have to get to master it? How would you coax somebody into the pool?
I think one is learning by example from people that have done it.
Right.
And again, from your peers, who you know, who you trust, who have the same challenges and work and objectives that you do. The same sort of purpose in a company, whether it's a functional purpose or a market or a customer focus. And hearing by example, what did you do? How did that help you?
Right.
How did you struggle with it? How did you feel as you went through that? So again, storytelling. So give me practical examples that relate to me. So not, here's a new ChatGPT model, or look, you can create a picture of a flying duck a lot better than you can 2 years ago. Is how does it apply to me?
So just interrupting and kind of summarizing Andrew's flow so far, find people doing this. Be an active, curious, skeptical student. Find an actual way that AI can help you right now.
So I think of two Venn diagrams, and this is where I think AI is going to be most powerful. You have subject matter expertise,
Yeah.
and you have AI. And I think there's lots of AI experts who don't understand how it should be used through a subject matter, whether it's finance, sales, or something else. And you have lots of subject matter experts with 25 years of learned experience and the battle scars, as you said earlier, who don't understand AI. So I think focusing on the sweet spot where those two things come together, you can learn as a human being and take baby steps. How can this give me capacity to do more things? So it can take some of the admin and the difficult stuff away. Like I don't have to create a PowerPoint or an Excel spreadsheet. I just dump some data in there and I get the answer back. Or how does it give me capabilities that I don't currently have? So even just today, I've learned how to unblock a sewer outside my house. And I've also learned how to build a front door conceptually, and I'm going to play with it. But it was advice that I just didn't have inside me. So I think it augments your capabilities, and as Sam Altman said, it gives you a little bit of a PhD expert in your pocket. The idea is, are you going to listen to it? Because often there's two things that people often happen when it comes to resistance is, well, I don't believe the answer because I don't know how it was created. It's this black box, and I can smell BS when I see it. So the skepticism about the quality of the advice. Then the other is, well, I don't know what data it's been trained on. So I have the data, you don't have the data. And especially in organizations, people like to keep the data to themselves. So they don't trust that the data upon which a decision or a piece of advice is actually true.
So it's worth jumping in here to say, first of all, I think the skepticism about the quality of the data and the quality of advice is very well warranted. But I think there's something in that insight that we can take back to our own change work and understand that people's resistance to change and transformation in the work that we do might be based on exactly the same things. Quality of data, quality of the advice. So how do we make what we do more transparent to reduce skepticism within our organization? Here's one of the challenges that I see as an endemic thing that people who are in change are up against, which is there is so much stuff going on in my organization. There's all sorts of random change programs unleashed and running around. A, I don't even really know what's going on out there. And B, if I'm honest, I doubt there's much capacity in the organization to go through that much more change. If I'm facing a challenge as big and as wicked and as thorny and as complex as that, how might AI help me make some steps forward?
I think in a few ways. Like I said, I do think if you can get rid of the 30% admin that is in your life by using AI to make you more efficient with your time, it creates that capacity. But also what I've found that AI is very good at is connecting dots. And if you provide AI with the right information, it's very good at conceptually mapping the interdependencies between A, B, C, and D, which one person in an organization typically doesn't have visibility to the whole thing. So someone somewhere is doing air traffic control, and there's a number of planes in the sky. You're on one of them, but someone somewhere is making sure that your plane safely operates with all the other planes. So I think that's where AI with the right data can help the organization, and it can help prevent some of those missteps where three people are working on the same thing, which only drives frustration, or you're told you have to stop and you don't know why because something else has to take precedent. So I think sort of arranging the airspace of change is a place that I think AI is very good with, because it's good with large amounts of data. So if you can create that data, it gives you safety.
How would I get that data though? I mean, that metaphor is really resonant for me, which is I can use AI to help me understand what's in the airspace and start going, what do I need to do about that? And maybe what do I need to convince my change sponsors or my C-suite to do about the stuff? Because they're probably as ignorant as I am about all the stuff that's going on. But I've got to find that data. I've got to get it somehow. Is that through human inquiry? Like, is that me going around knocking on doors and going, what are you up to? What's going on? What change stuff do you know about that I don't know about? Or is there another way you can somehow use AI to source some of this information?
I think there's a few ways. Firstly, the same as in the non-AI world, focus on what's important. What are the things that are maybe the top 5 things that you need to know from each of the transformation programs that are in loop? And also don't have too many planes in the sky. So like control the airspace, know how many things you can manage at once, know what 3 to 5 things you need to know from all of them, which are the most important things that that interdependency learns on, and then translate that into the things that each of the folks flying the planes need to know. So don't tell everybody everything.
Yeah.
Be very hyper-personalized in the feedback to people on what they need to know, given their situation. And I think that's, again, being able to crunch all the data is great, but then if you sort of turn that into a 100-page document and give it to someone, it's not helpful.
Right.
If you give the 2 pages to one person that they need and the 2 pages that someone else needs based on their needs, then that's when it becomes hyper-personalized. So it's connecting the dots. And then the other thing I would say is there's been a massive push recently beyond just providing data to saying, well, how can we do that in human form? And you could very easily write a 5-minute interview in AI that is a voice conversation where you ask 3 questions. You can answer it on your way into work through your headphones versus having to go, I've got another form to fill in. So you meet the people where they are to get the information that they need. And people have also found that voice agents, because it's not a human being, people tend to be a little bit more open and honest with them because they're not talking to someone who's going to judge them back.
So let me play that back so I get it. You can use voice agents to effectively do qualitative research, surveys of the key people you want to talk to, prompt them with 2 or 3 questions, maybe a follow-up question or 2 attached to each one. Then you can collect that, throw it into your AI process, and use that to kind of sort through that to go, what's this telling me about what's going on?
Yes. So a lot of it does come down to prompting and being clear on the information you want to gather, but also knowing they can giving permission to go off-road and ask a few tangential questions if it's worth it.
If you'd like to connect with Andrew Kilshaw, he's on LinkedIn, so you'll definitely find him there. And his website is talentoptima.co. That's CO, talentoptima, OPTIMA.co. My guess is many folks who are listening to this have at least done a bit of prompting. You know, they've opened up ChatGPT or Claude and they've asked a prompt or 2.
Yeah.
I suspect there's quite a difference between the people who've dabbled in prompting and the people who've thought about it and practiced it and refined their craft. Are there any specific guidances you can give us? And this is August 2025. So, this is definitely relevant for at least the next 72 hours.
Yes.
But what do you know about prompting now, and how have you refined your approach to prompting?
So I sort of gave a little talk to some friends about what I'd learned from being in the trenches, and it really is a learning experience, like just do it learning, to give you the Nike example again. You start to realize over time what is successful and what might be successful with one model is not successful with another. So I think prompt engineering was a massive thing 2 years ago because there wasn't sort of chain of thought and reasoning in the models at that point. It was like, hey, I want A, B, and C. It would give you A, B, and C. It wouldn't say, well, actually, you need D. Because it wasn't really thinking. So I think right now the best you can do is, one is give context. So give the bigger picture in which you're asking the question. So you can do that through projects in many of the AI agents. So you create a project, you say, this is what I'm trying to do, here's some background information, then you have a chat within that, so it has the context.
Right.
The second is, iterate. Don't expect it to get the things right the first time round. So like with many things, when you prototype, right, expect it to be 30%, 40% right, maybe the first shot, and then go back and say, that's right, that needs to be corrected. Can you tell me more about that? Or that I never thought of. So have iterative conversations, the idea of multi-shot prompting, where you keep going. And also I would say the way you prompt and the sort of the fidelity you can put into the answer is often dependent on the subject of the question. And what I mean by that is, if I'm asking questions to AI about things I've been practicing for 25 years, there's that sniff test. You sort of go, I can smell there's a little bit of BS there, so I'm going to push on it. And then there might be other times where I'm sort of going, okay, well, tell me what the tax structure is for someone who pays tax in 3 countries, and
tell me how to build a door, and you're like, I don't know.
Exactly. I've never built a door. So over time, you sort of get to know, even in the areas that you don't know very well, the questions to follow up and just sort of test the veracity of it.
So let me run something. I'm going to just make up a story and a prompt and get your kind of coaching around it and your guidance and refining it. I'm going to imagine that I'm now working for Nike. And I've been asked to lead some version of a change program. Knowing that there's probably other change projects going on around me, I spend a month sniffing them out and going and interviewing the 7 named leaders of those different change projects. So I've got some information about what it's about, what their goals are about, who the sponsors are, what their budget is, what their timeline is, what success might look like. So I now come to my prompt and I'm like, I'm leading a project. I work at Nike. This is Nike's annual report for the last 2 years. There are 7 other projects going on that I'm aware of. I've loaded this into a project, so I've got a file on each of the other reports, and that's stored as documentation. So I'm like, you can see the details of those other projects in the documents. And then my prompt is, review my project as a skeptical C-suite member of Nike and tell me what I need to do to make this one of the top 3 change projects within Nike rather than one of the bottom 3 projects within Nike. And my goal is to start off by going, where do I fit in the pecking order? You know, in terms of people's capacity for change, who gets to go before me? And what can I do to try and move myself up the hierarchy? That's me making this up on the spot, Andrew. What do you hear there that you like, and what do you hear is a bit flaky?
Okay, so these would be a few reflections. So I think it's a good start. So the reflection I'd say is, again, I go back to the iterative prompt thing. That could be a great place to start. And you're getting, again, if you think about, I've got my board of advisors in my mind and I need this level of diversity on it, the proverbial naysayer or the devil's advocate is always a good one to have, but it's not the only one that you have. So you want to have diversity in what comes back. There is the concern, and we've heard this over the past sort of 12 to 18 months of this sycophantic AI behavior where it's like, driving some people delusional because
this is a wonderful project. Oh, you're number 1. You're so good looking.
And the other 6 out of 7 who are asking the same question also get the same answer. So I think it's you can have the same conversation with somebody where you either prompt them at a sort of meta level where you can go in and say, here's the persona. So I took these five Ps. Use a project where you have the contextual information in it so they understand the context of what you do. Then also there's the persona, and you can change to multiple personas. So you could say, hey, based on the data from the anonymous site, now you're an employee who's got to receive this stuff, and you're in that negative third. Tell me everything that's wrong with it and why, and how I could change your mind.
Oh, that's great.
Get that, or focus on that middle third, because they're the ones that either go to left or right, depending on the voice that's there. So again, if you can get that group of ambassadors, net promoters, to sort of say, hey, this is how this helped me. You should try it. It was difficult, yes, but ... Here's how I went after it. It's how I felt, and it's raw and emotive.
Nice.
I think that's a way you could do it is, try the same prompt with those 3 different personas in mind. And then
that's really good.
Yeah.
You're reminding me of a tool from Edward de Bono. I think he came up with the term lateral thinking. And one of his tools is these 6 thinking hats. So effectively, you put on the hat, and the black hat is the skeptic, and the white hat is the enthusiast, and the red hat is the rationalist. And it just creates 6 different perspectives on which to view any problem. And I'm thinking those might be 6 generically interesting perspectives to get on anything that you have.
Have market conditions changed? Have internal conditions changed? Are we making progress? Because the world keeps moving. So I think every now and again, and I do this with AI, I might be coding. I can't code, but AI is brilliant at coding. And we're going in the right direction. And then I'll stop and say, okay, now let's look at the whole code base. And I just read this New York Times article about ABC that I think might either be a competitor or has changed the landscape or has given me a new capability, a new idea to throw in the mix. So you have to be careful between balancing, I'm always changing every quarter, changing direction, because then you don't really get anywhere.
Right.
Versus at the other end of the spectrum, you could be, I'm just going ahead regardless, and like I'm not taking any feedback. So it's that delicate balance. But you can have those same conversations, I think, with AI, where you're in execution mode for a while, but every now and again you need to step back and just say, here's the data, here's the progress, here are the external things that have changed. Let's get big picture. And that's when you flip from a very fast model to these big, deep research pro models that will take 20 minutes to come back with an answer, but it's a very, very well thought through one.
That's great. Are there any kind of rookie mistakes that you'd be going, look, Michael, let me just give you some basics around, don't do this, because this was hot 12 months ago and now it's just silly?
I think it depends on the context of what you're trying to do, whether it's technological, whether it's sociological, whether it's cultural, whether it's a business objective. Things just change. So I think that there's a natural decay in most of the things that you decide, right? Where, hey, listen, I make a decision, the world changes around that. So over time, that decision may become less and less relevant. So it's knowing what that decay is, and also having some level of confidence level in the quality of the decision you made in the first place. So this might be, I have lower confidence, therefore I'm going to keep on testing it as I go along and iterating. I have high confidence, but I know in 3 months it might be less relevant. Or if a new model comes along. So I mean, those would be the two things. And I think earlier I said there's a level of sycophancy to some of the responses. So if it's a big bet decision, go with the biggest models and ask 3 or 4 of them the same question.
Great.
So if I do some really deep, important stuff, I'll ask the same prompt, write it over 1 or 2 pages, put it into the best model in Google AI Studio that's free, by the way, and ChatGPT and Claude, and for a little bit of spice, Grok. But I don't particularly enjoy working with Grok. But a lot of people have to be careful with privacy, so make sure that the other P is privacy. Know how your data is or isn't being used.
Got it.
Claude Anthropic has been a default if we don't train anything on your data, whereas you have to turn it off in ChatGPT, and Grok will take the data and you'd have a choice of opting. So you have to just be careful on, at the same time, how comfortable am I sharing what might be sensitive data, either personal or professionally as well.
Is there a way you can distinguish for me between the smaller decisions that can work on the faster models and the bigger decisions? How do I know which one's which?
I think there's an expression that it may have been Jack Welch's wife came up with, and my wife told me about this, which I thought was really interesting. So, if you're about to make a big decision, will you care about that decision 10 hours, 10 days, 10 months, or 10 years from now?
That was Susie Welch, I think.
Susie Welch.
She had the 10-10-10 model. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and so I think there's the one-way door, two-way door. There's the consequences of this being wrong.
Right.
Again, is it a safe, innovative space where I can learn, fail fast? Some places you can't fail fast because the consequences of failing fast are dire, and there's no way back. So it's to use the contextual decision making and test the decision you're about to make. The bigger the stakes are, whatever that looks like, and in some ways, again, you can iterate, try stuff, and if it doesn't work, you can go back to plan B. But I think the time frame and the importance of a decision and what it actually means to either people, money, customers, whatever is important to that question. Those are the two things I'd probably focus on.
I know the context for this conversation with Andrew is AI, but what he's just said, I think, is really the essence of what it means to run small experiments, which is, as you'll have heard, an ongoing theme from our guests on Change Signal. If I'm right at the start of my AI journey and I'm in the world of change in organizations, how would you guide me to take the first step?
I think first I would start looking at, how am I feeling? What's my P&L looking like about my comfort with AI? So I would think through, first of all, what do I like about it? Where does it bring positive impacts to the world? And where am I either wary, or where do I think it's actually destructive or not helping out? So I think you need to come to terms with your own biases.
Yeah.
And, if there are people around you who've overcome those biases, the negative biases necessarily, and said, well, this is a way I found around it, or listen, I would never give my financial information. That's just a no-no. That's a red line for me. That's a red line for you. So I think it's, where's your red lines around some of these things?
Nice.
That's the first thing.
Yeah.
And then secondly, I go back to the example I gave earlier of the Venn diagram of where I think AI is going to be most powerful is where you already have subject matter expertise,
right,
and you start to learn the AI part.
Yeah.
Because then you've got that sniff test. So, it might be, hey, listen, I've been tasked with setting up an organization to set up a new drug molecule. And I'm not a scientist, know nothing about that. I wouldn't go into AI and say, well, how should I do that? I would either get a scientist alongside me
right,
to say, is what I'm being told true? Or I would test it with something that I know a lot about, because that starts to build your level of understanding of where's it strong, where's it not as a model.
right,
And also that, again, the different models. So I find that Claude Anthropic is better at some things than ChatGPT or Google, and vice versa. So you start to learn their different strengths, but test it on things you know already, because you've got that sort of intuitive BS test where you can validate it, and that helps build some credibility in the areas that you do know, so you can be a little bit more experimental with the areas that you don't.
What needs to be said that hasn't yet been said about change and AI?
Oh, I mean, so this is where I think about, is this a sort of white hat or a black hat revolution? And I'm thinking big picture globally, societally at this point. My two daughters are 12 and 14, and they're learning 90% of the curriculum I learned 30, 40 years ago. And I just don't think education has kept up with it.
Yeah.
So the things that I sort of think macroeconomically as it comes to change is this going to be something that helps everybody on Earth have a leg up? That's the first thing. Secondly is AI replacing jobs? So you already hear now about, entry-level jobs are disappearing, but how can you get an experienced senior-level job if you've not had the experience earlier on?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about societally, how do we do two things? One is change our education system, and I think this goes for inside companies as well, when you're teaching people new capabilities to keep up. How can we teach differently, where you learn how to use AI, but you learn more about the human skills, empathy, communication, teamwork, purpose, vision, societal impact as a common good. And then you use AI to allow you to do that better by, again, either more time to focus on that or to do other things better. And then the second thing is, if it can create some capacity for us, how can we either move to a sort of 3 or 4 day week as a society or as a company, and reinvest that other time? I mean, maybe on the golf course if that's what you want, but I think this is moving so quickly that the companies that will be successful will find ways for AI to take some of the crap off people's plates, so they can learn, invest, and keep up. Because I've been working with AI 60, 70 hours a week. I'm finding it difficult to keep up. And knowing the corporate world, if you're in 40 hours of back-to-back meetings all week, you don't have the time or the energy to keep up with this stuff. And it's important. So we've got to work out, how do we help our kids through a different form of teaching that's teaching, as living in Canada, the Wayne Gretzky, it's teaching for where the puck's going to be, not for where it was 30 years ago.
Hey, the puck is right here, and you've skated to the end. Well done, you. Okay, so I'm realizing that if I talk to people about AI, I have to release it a little faster. Now, I talked to Andrew back in August 2025. We're releasing it April 2026, and things have changed. You may have noticed. AI has changed, the world has changed, everything has changed. That said, I think you'll agree that this episode has really good bones to it. I think there's a lot here, but lesson learned for me. If I do an AI episode again, it has to come out fast. I salute you, and I thank you for listening and for supporting the podcast in whatever way you do. I will say mentioning it to a friend or a colleague as a favorite podcast of yours is the highest form of endorsement. So thank you if you're able to do that. And thank you also for doing the work. I'm glad you're here.